Three, two, one. What's up, film fans? Darren here. It's been ages, and yeah, I always seem to be apologizing, but I'm back with another one, so I guess better late than never. Redscale film doesn't just shift colors, it shifts moods. There's something haunting about it. It's strange yet warm. It looks a little bit like sunburnt nostalgia, and I'm getting poetic here. And yeah, in this episode of Filmstock Tryouts, we're diving into another new film. I guess you can guess it. Also, you've seen the thumbnail, so this is pretty stupid. I don't know why I try to pretend like I'm keeping it a secret and revealing it. But yeah, Harman Red Scale, another new film, a new color film. I guess it's not really new. It's because it's Harman Phoenix, which is released a while ago, just flipped backwards. So yeah, an experimental stock from the makers of Kentmere and Ilford HP5. Yeah, thank you Harman for putting out another new film in 2025. And yeah, I'm keen for it. So let's get going. Harman Red Scale. When you shoot red scale, essentially what's happening is you're flipping, or the makers of the film are flipping the film so that you shoot, the light comes through the base layer of the film. So that light comes through the base layer of the film. And that inverts the color spectrum. So your cool tones, blues, greens, that kind of stuff get buried, and everything leans very hard into the punchy spectrum of reds, yellows, and oranges. And I'm going to get into some tips now and just my overall thoughts. Tip number 1, overexposure helps. Harman Red Scale is on the canister, it says ISO 125. On the box it says 125, but I shot it at 100. I just want to give the shadows a little bit of a lift and give them some breathing room to pull back some detail from the deep and dusty reds. And speaking of shooting films, I shot it on, oh yeah, my new Leica M4 with the Voigtlander Nokton Classic 40mm f1.4 manual lens. I've wanted a Leica camera for ages. I'm not necessarily a believer in that your gear makes you a better photographer, but it's definitely an excellent quality machine. And yeah, I really love it. I wanted one, I got one. Thank you to Hey By Town for making that happen. And yeah, this is one of the first rolls I put through my Leica. So for anyone who hates Leicas, cool man, whatever. Anyone who loves Leicas, or yeah, that's also cool. Just make stuff, that's really what it is about. So yeah, I shot it at 100, the Harman Phoenix. And it was developed and scanned by Silver Gelatin Labs in Nanjing. And I would generally like to develop my own film, but I'm so busy. That takes time, and I really would love to be able to do that. So that's why this needs to go viral, and I need to start earning money from YouTube. So yeah, I got sent TIFF files back, and I tweaked them in Lightroom, but I'll get more to that later. Tip number 2, I guess, is to use the light and shadow with intentionally. So red scale thrives in scenes that provide a high contrast. Sunny days with strong shadows, or street scenes with bright neon lights and dark shadows. Open shade and cloudy days drops the contrast and saturation quite quickly. The images then become quite muddy because there isn't a very strong distinction from light to shadow. But in golden hour, or with a very hard side lighting, or a hard difference in light, a hard contrast in light, that's when this film really sings. And yeah, no one wants to hear me sing, but you want to see film sing. So I'm going to kind of just try and break down a little bit what happens with this film when you go through the exposure ranges. So if you overexpose, so if you shoot it at ISO 25 to 50, which is about a stop to a stop and a half overexposing, what you can expect is you'll get a lot more orange and yellow tones. You're going to get a lot more detail in the shadows, but you're also going to get a softer contrast, because what you're doing is you're kind of washing the image with light. You know, like when you look out into the sun, and then you kind of, everything gets that, like, it's almost like a layer, like a film of light That's kind of what's going to happen on your images, unless you have a very strong shadow in the image. So it's going to have that dreamier, more washed in sunlight kind of look, which if you're going for it, go for it. You're going to get better skin tones, and I mean, that's relatively speaking, this film isn't for good skin tone. So I guess for Redscale, it's better skin tones. If you shoot at box speed, so 125, you're going to get balanced reds with a decent contrast. You can still lean a bit heavy into the reds depending on your lighting. Your reds will be quite stark, but it's not going to be as heavy as if you underexpose. Limited recovery in the shadows as well. If you shoot at box speed, you're not going to have much room to play with it. Latitude in the shadows are going to be shadowy, and then you can't really lift them much. It's going to then become gritty in the grain. If you underexpose, so ISO 160 to 200 or more, what happens is you're going to get shadows that are very, very black very quickly. You're going to get high contrast because it's basically sucking the light out of the image. So all that it really has is, if there are areas of bright light and then everything else is just shadow, you're going to get a dominant deep red with minimal midtones. So it's not going to have a color tonality or range, latitude, I guess. It's going to be reds, darker oranges, less yellows, unless you have very, very bright highlights. It's going to look surreal, moody, but you're going to lose clarity. So I recommend to shoot at 100 or underexpose. Sorry, not underexpose, overexpose. Just giving it light gives it better room, and I think adds to the feel of the film. And then just with that, a note on scanning the negatives. If you'll be scanning at home with a digital camera scanning, the negatives are very, very dark. So you'll want a very strong light source below the negatives just to help you, and then to expect to do a decent amount of manual color balancing in post in Lightroom or whatever your editing software suite is. Harman Red scale has a very strong base tint that can shift dramatically, so depending on your exposure. So yeah, just take note of that. I did struggle a bit with the TIFF files that Silver Gelatin sent me to get them all more or less kind of the same, and what I thought was an accurate representation, which is also really difficult because it's a different color film, or it's a different look at the world, so it's difficult to know, like you can't match it to what you saw on the day. So kind of you're just going more on feel. And yeah, that's number 3, I guess. Tip number 3, best use cases. This stock isn't a stock to use if you want accuracy, if you want color accuracy. What you're wanting to use it for is atmosphere, to create a mood, to try and experiment with stuff. If you're looking for natural skin tones or clean shadows, this film is not your friend. If you want to lean into mood, texture, and the kind of like heat wave feeling, yeah, or otherworldly, apocalyptic, surreal feeling, that's the dream with Harman Red scale. This film works best when you lean into its strengths, so shooting silhouettes, sun flares, experimental portraits, and gritty street scenes. The weirder the light, the better it gets. I wouldn't really use it for critical portfolio work. I mean, you can add it to your portfolio if that's kind of what you're trying to build, but for creative shoots it can do well. It does have serious personality, and kind of a little bit on that, I try to look for scenes where I have a decent amount of shadow, but then I have a strong source of a highlight. So in some of my photos, as you'll see them playing through, you'll notice that I have that, where I have some shots where it's not all that different, like it's a usual street scene, but then I also have I try to get more shots where there is a strong source of a highlight with surrounding shadows. And I think that works really, really well. I did have a few where I shot like the sky with the sun, and then you have architecture, which that's going to fall into the shadow, but it's still doesn't sing as much, I guess. And then to kind of give it a comparison, I'm comparing it to a Kodak Ektachrome shot that I have, and I know Kodak Ektachrome isn't C41 film, but it is a close to real life color film, so that's what I wanted to compare it to. And if you take a look at the comparison that I'm going to put up now, you can see that that comparison says it all. Where the regular color film, where Kodak Ektachrome captures what the colors are, how they looked on the day, you can think when tweaking it, like, okay, that's what it looked like. Redscale captures what it feels like, or red. I should call it Harman Red, not Redscale. Harman Red captures what it feels like. It captures the mood, and maybe not. Maybe it tweaks the mood. It bends the scene into something more poetic or dreamlike, or maybe a little bit just stranger. So if that's your thing, that's what it's cool for. And then yeah, my 4-part rating. I do this thing where I post on my Instagram and I share just a very quick overview of what to expect from the film, how to shoot it, or at least my thoughts. It's these things. You can check me out on Instagram. Exposure latitude, I gave it about half to maybe 1 stop overexposure. It's not the greatest exposure latitude because it's not a film for accuracy, and you're shooting through the back layer. So yeah, underexposure, please don't go any further than half a stop. At least, yeah, I mean, if you want to, then do it, but I don't think it would produce decent images. So I gave it 1 to 2 out of 5 for that. Sharpness, 2 out of 5. It's not very sharp. It's not meant for sharpness. It's for mood. It's butter knife sharp. It's yeah, you're kind of painting atmosphere. You're not painting incredible portraits. Contrast, it's a very, very contrasty film, so I gave it 4.5 out of 5. If you underexpose it, you're going to get more contrast. If you overexpose it, depending on how far, you're going to get less contrast, but it's still very contrasty. Grain, 3 to 4 out of 5, depending on what exposure you give it. It's a slow film, so the grain is not going to be as pronounced, but it is a medium grain, and then underexposing gives it a much grittier look, especially in the shadows. I guess 3 to 4 out of 5 is maybe a little bit much. I'd say maybe 2.5 to 4.5 out of 5, or no, 2.5 to 3.5 out of 5 might be a little bit more accurate. It's not very, very grainy, but there is prominent grain, and if you're underexposed, it's going to be a lot more grittier. So yeah, that's Harman Red. And I enjoyed just getting the images, and it's a different look at life, and I think that's really, really cool. And I, for one, believe that creatives, just that humans, should be experimenting. We should be trying new things, learning more about the world around us and things around us, film in this case, but also learning and taking in things differently, looking at things differently. And I think that's really, really cool to learn and to grow. And maybe it's a film stock that you won't use often. It's not something that you want to add to your collection of constant use, but it's not trying to be a film stock that's replicating real world looks. It's it's unapologetically lo-fi, a little wild, but not boring, and I think that's pretty cool. It's a good film to try, so I recommend it. And yeah, that's it. This was Harman Red, a film that helps when you want your memories to glow, burn and blur. And thank you for joining me on another hashtag filmstock tryouts. I appreciate you guys so much. Just keep making stuff, shooting. I'd love to see your Redscale or Red images. So share them with me on Instagram or Threads or wherever. And yeah, just keep making stuff. Have a wonderful day, morning, evening, night, whatever. And yeah, peace.